Good afternoon. It's September 30th today, and it's time to set the ball rolling for another discussion. You're with the Economic Times, and my name is Ashutosh Sinha. Today, Dell Technologies presents the Economic Times India Manufacturing TechTransformed. As always, there are some leading minds who are with us to discuss some of the related issues. The experts we have today are very eminent minds across manufacturing, technology, and consulting industries, and bring a wealth of experience with them. So let me first introduce them and talk to you about them and the issues that they're the ones who are going to be talking about. So first, we have Satish Patil, Chief Digital Officer at Larsen in Toubro. Ajeya Motaganahalli is CTO-SPS Business Group, Honeywell Technology. Devarajan, Senior VP Production Engineering, TVS Motor Company. Prosenjit Sengupta, EVP and Chief Digital Officer at Thermax Group. Rajeev Singh, Partner Automotive Leader, Deloitte India. And Vivekanand Manjeri, Brand Director, Client Solutions Business, Dell India. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Welcome. But before I come to you, let me first broadly introduce the talking points and some of the issues. This is about manufacturing. If there's one word that has been the holy grail for those managing Indian economy over the last few years, this is it, manufacturing. With a workforce that is rapidly changing, an economy that is recovering after the twin shocks over the last 18 months, companies are sensing an opportunity for a technological shift. It is a shift that could help them, hopefully, become more efficient as they move to one or more technologies or adopt one or more of those technologies to build a digitally driven future. Digital supply chain, harnessing big data in manufacturing, blockchain, IoT, AI, and robotics, and too many of those names. They are changing the dynamics of manufacturing today. Imagine interconnected factories, big data and analytics-driven manufacturing and supply chain, cloud-native businesses tying up seamlessly with the ecosystem without too many worries around, largely, if you could say, around security, enterprise security, that is. India's manufacturing industries could leap ahead and change with such transformative emerging technologies. These technologies may sound quite a mouthful and may not be mere buzzwords. They generate data that has the potential to turn into the building blocks for the next generation of manufacturing companies, and even companies that will turn from today's legacy manufacturing to the next-gen companies. So this interconnected world of vertically integrated factories, augmented reality, robotics, and all those robotic processes and more could be possible in the near future. If that's sounding too futuristic, hold on and be with us. It could be the beginning of a massive shift in the way products are built in the future. It's all about building. But in India, home to 1 in 6 people in the world and just 2% share of the manufacturing activity in the world, is India ready to nurse and propel that revolution? The leap of technology for the manufacturing sector could add a new zing to the Make in India campaign, a set of words that I'm sure each one of you has heard during the last decade. Some would say this decade should be about execution of the promise that the last decade has had for India. So that's the broad context. And of course, it's a huge topic, so we could go on, but that's the broad context and we could add some more topics. But first, since I introduced everyone to you, let me request Rajeev Singh, Partner and Automotive Leader, Deloitte India, to set the context for the discussion as we look to pick the minds of all the experts here. Rajeev, welcome, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ashu. Thanks for having me here. And a good afternoon to all the viewers. Good afternoon to all my co-panelists here. Ashu, I think you started with something, and I'm just going to build over that as we get into this session. And you rightly said that while our aspirations, our dreams around manufacturing are very big, one of the reality that comes and hits us is that we don't even contribute to 2% of the global manufacturing currently. So our share in manufacturing is pretty small, despite the enormous amount of manufacturing that we see all around us. And I think that is what is the need of the hour as to how do we up our game? How do we go up in the manufacturing value chain? If India has to become, as the Prime Minister said, a $5 trillion economy in say 5 years from now, I think manufacturing will have to play a very key role. Today, manufacturing contributes to just about say 16-17% of our GDP. But that will have to go up significantly towards 24-25% as we see moving towards a larger economy. But let me just put a slightly different perspective here. We say that, okay, India contributes to only 2%, but which are the nations which contribute big to manufacturing? Let's look at around the globe, which are the countries which are pretty big in manufacturing. So look at Japan, for example. They're pretty big. But what is the one word that comes to our mind when we think of Japan? We think Japan, what is that one word that clicks? I think it is quality that immediately strikes anyone to say Japan means quality. So that is what Japanese manufacturing is known for, say, for example. Now, similarly, what is that one word that clicks in anyone's mind the moment you say manufacturing and China? I think that's simple. Manufacturing China means scale, means big in size. Mega factories, because that is what comes to the mind. Similarly, look at another country, say Germany. Okay, what is that one word that comes to mind the moment we think of Germany? And the moment we think of Germany, it comes engineering, because that country is known for its engineering abilities, engineering skills. But now if India has to be in that league of Japan, of China, of Germany, what is it that India will be known for? What is the DNA that we will be known for? I think that's an important question that we need to address. And using this platform, Ashu, this ET platform, let me make an appeal to everyone out here to say, can we use smart manufacturing or advanced manufacturing probably as a rallying point for India? Say, the moment people think of India manufacturing, can they think of smart manufacturing coming out of India? So I think that is the rallying point that we need. I'm not saying that this is the only rallying point, but let it not be jugaad, let it not be frugal manufacturing. I think it has to be something which is higher than that. Now, that is what I think we should try and aim for. And it's not going to be an easy journey. But at the same time, we have a strengths and capabilities. I think as an economy, we demonstrated to the world when in the 80s and 90s, we leapfrog and went into technology space. Now, that was the time that we embraced the IT revolution that was happening globally. It didn't result in any loss of jobs. I remember that there was a lot of hue and cry when I think there was computerization happening across the Indian railway system. And people felt, okay, what will happen? Will I lose my jobs and so on? But look at it, what has happened, what has resulted in it now. There are enormous number of job opportunities which got created. And there are big giants like TCS, like Infosys, like Wipro, which took birth from that entire revolution. I think we are right at the cusp of it, Ashu. I think that if we can ensure that we embrace some of these advanced technologies which are coming into manufacturing, it can lead into a completely different new world for us. And what we would love to do, I think, is to give the conviction and the confidence to all the people. I think I'm really pleased to see all the esteemed panel members here. I think if we can spend some time and just discuss and debate use of some of the advanced manufacturing technologies, as you rightly said, be it AR and VR in manufacturing, be it something to do with advanced data analytics and how it is being deployed in manufacturing, or be it the use of maybe wearables and goggles that we use now in manufacturing, or even artificial intelligence and machine learning that we talk about and how it is being deployed in manufacturing. I think we'll do a lot good in terms of building that confidence. We have seen the journey of TQM, we have seen the journey of TPM, we have seen the journey of Lean and Six Sigma. I think now is the journey of smart manufacturing that we are getting into. So that is what I think is the exciting journey that we all are looking forward to. With that, Ashu, let me hand it over back to you. Thank you.
Okay, smart manufacturing. And, When it comes to manufacturing, one name from India that you have to talk about, and you have to talk about, some time ago, they spoke of not just engineering, they spoke of imagineering. So let's try and get the question to L&T first. And let me go to Satish Patil and talk about that. He's the Chief Digital Officer. So Satish, please explain to us the scale at which things are being done in the industry. And when L&T does it, and when that industry is doing, it has to go down, and it will show up in some of the ancillaries and some of the smaller industries doing it. If you can share with us some of the details, please.
Sure, Ashutosh. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to this discussion. And good afternoon to all the viewers and my co-panelists. So you and even Rajeev touched upon a very important part is smart manufacturing. And I'm going to put a perspective from L&T, Larsen and Toubro perspective as to how we are embracing the digital transformation and how we are leveraging all the digital technologies to take it forward. So setting up a context as a Larsen Toubro as a company, right? So we are a $22 billion company, and we have got around 16 unique businesses. Half of them focus on construction projects, and half of them are manufacturing oriented. So I'm going to dwell more onto the manufacturing side of it, where we have got two kind of business models, right? One is engineering to order, right? So where basically based on the designs drawings given by the customers, we build it according to those drawings and supply it back. And the second is the discrete manufacturing. So we are into both of these segments. Now coming to the digital technologies. So when we started this journey 5 years back, what we found is, our business growth is around 30 to 40% year on year. And manufacturing, if I have to put it in certain way, we have got limited resources, right? Limited resources in terms of manufacturing space, limited resources in terms of manpower and other resources, right? So the only way to cater to this year-on-year business growth is not in a linear way, not like setting up multiple workplaces, multiple manufacturing plants, but we wanted to employ a non-linear perspective to it, and digital was definitely taking the cake. So coming to digital, right, how we have started using it, we are using it in multiple folds. One is definitely the Industry 4.0, where we have made all our machines intelligent enough, where we can, on real-time basis, we can measure what is the productivity output, what is the utilization, and we use a lot of this sensor information to do predictive maintenance on top of it. And of course, we also do space management. So we took care of machines, right? So we have made it more automated. Now comes the workforce, right? I mean, how do I get a non-linearity of productivity output? So we used a lot of technologies like artificial intelligence, first of all. For example, we do a lot of welding work in engineering projects. Now, manually, if you start looking at the defects on the welding, it is time consuming. So we used artificial intelligence where we pass on the radiographs or the photo images of that particular weld section, and it automatically detects the cracks or the seam patterns, etc., and gives a heads up to the workers. So workers will focus only on those aspects and then try to improve the productivity, right? So not only that, how do we track workmen in the manufacturing shop floor? So we use a lot of these RFID technologies, Bluetooth, and various ways to track workers so that we can utilize them and improve the productivity. And we are also doing a lot of work when it comes to remote monitoring and inspection. Now, because of the pandemic that hit us 1.5 years, 2 years back, what it did is it put a restriction on the travel time, on meeting people, right? So, but the show must go on, right? I mean, we can't stop the manufacturing for 2 years, right? So we adopted a lot of technologies which enable us to do remote monitoring and inspection. In fact, I'll give 2-3 examples that we just installed a big nuclear project in France through remote. I mean, it was totally, we used smart glasses, we used other technologies, and we could install that entire nuclear plant in 3 months remotely. We didn't travel to France at all. So just an example, how we could remotely install and commission such huge plants. So that's my take on, when it comes to smart manufacturing and when it comes to Larsen and Toubro.
Got it. That's interesting, and we'll try and understand that a little bit. Ajay, from the Honeywell perspective, I'm sure some of the plants would be ultra modern in different parts of the globe. How has that pandemic changed in the India operations using some of the better or the smarter ways of working, which is more technology driven?
Yeah, I think Honeywell in general believes that this is a decade for autonomous operations, and what I mean by that is we're looking at very high levels of automation in industrial, right? So we call ourselves a software industrial company because we kind of enable the coming together of software technologies with machine-aware software technologies with machines, right? And make it all come together and work and make things happen. So yeah, so this has been an incredible journey in the last years through the pandemic, where I think visibly the company has done extremely well because we were able to adapt and move to more and more of those autonomous operations that we wanted to happen in any case. So speaking specifically about my business, I think we deal with two things. One is safety, and then there's like productivity. SPS is kind of known for both safety and productivity. So while we are pushing through, let's say, for example, if I want to take an example of automating things in a warehouse, right? So for example, when there was a boom in e-commerce, there was tremendous pressure on warehouses to actually address the surging demand. And I think the buying patterns of people have changed for good. I don't think we're going to go back to the way we were before. So this is going to be the new normal for us. So how do you equip the warehouses with the technology and the automation that's required to address that surging demand? I think Honeywell completely took it on, and then our integrated suite of products actually address that completely. So in terms of enabling those single day deliveries, not just in India, anywhere in the world, right? With those rising demands, some of that with some of the leading e-commerce players that we partnered with, that's something that we did. Safety was another critical factor actually when actually COVID hit us. If you remember, there was like a dearth of PPEs in the country. So we actually set up a line in Pune for manufacturing the N95 masks because we had the technology and we could not import it. So the next best thing to do was to actually put it up here. We stood up a factory we stood up a production line in about 3 months and got them rolling, right? So there was a multifaceted approach, primarily driven on the facets of automation, autonomous. And then once you automate these huge, let's say warehouses, a lot of technology goes in terms of, somebody spoke about artificial intelligence. Yes, I would say it's more about, let's say, decision intelligence, right? So what are the steps that have to take place when something happens? And then how do you kind of coordinate and bring it all together? So it's a cusp of data sciences to getting sensor information or visual information, like vision analytics information, and telling the machines to do a set of jobs and basically make it happen. So that's how I remember the era of the pandemic for us, actually. A lot of work.
Okay, okay. That's interesting. And that's one of the aspects of it. Yeah. Okay, but India also talked of Make in India in the last decade. And that's important because of the way positioning was done for India in the last decade. And today, Rajeev was mentioning about how India could be a possible leader or could position itself for smart manufacturing. Let's get Prosenjit Gupta now into the discussion and ask him a little bit about that Make in India. As you have, because at Thermax, you would have some sense of what is happening in the industry, in the big picture in the industry. Prosenjit, how far has the country been able to move the needle beyond the talk as we look through the last decade And if you could put that in the context of technology, because this opportunity may not come again.
Thank you, Ashu, and good afternoon, everybody, my co-panelists, and thank you for for inviting me on this panel. So I think I will go back about a year and a half ago to the build the story, and I think it was around middle of March when the pandemic and the lockdown actually hit us. And one of the earliest memories that I have of that we were in an initial shock with the realization that even though we are going into a lockdown, the customers will need to continue to be served. And it will be a while before our employees will be. In fact, one of our earliest crises was a boiler for a customer in Egypt, which had been commissioned. And we actually had no clue about how to go about doing it because all our commissionings were physical commissioning processes. In fact, for people who are not very familiar with Thermax, so Thermax is a leading energy and environment solutions provider in the areas of heating, cooling, power, water and waste management, air pollution control, and chemicals. So we pretty much cover the entire utilities area in the industrial segment. And what we found is that even though we were talking about a lockdown, a pandemic kind of a situation, it opened up quite few doors of working together in terms of bringing technology together. Whether it was in the form of enabling our customers, whether it was in form of manufacturing, continuation of manufacturing processes, whether it was also in the process of having a completely new look at the way that our, let us say, the ingredients towards manufacturing are positioned. For example, how are we getting the orders? How are we creating the proposals? Are our proposals intelligent enough? How are the proposals giving input in manufacturing systems? How are we enabling the manufacturing even in a remote manner? How are we able to get a better quality and uptime conditions enabled with less than 50% strength across the board? But one thing that I found also very important in the last 1.5 years, but also the decade that you're talking about, Ashu, is that slowly but surely, everybody is moving towards automation, is moving towards a data-driven analysis. But he wants it a little bit because in my mind, I have two different sets of thinking. One is the digitization or the automation, and the second is the digital transformation. When we talk about automation, I think all of us are pretty much familiar with all the systems that we have been putting into our industries, whether it has been ERP, CRMs, dealer management systems, MESs, PLMs. The list just goes on and on. But that has not really changed the way things are done. Basic processes, the basic models have not completely changed because
set it up while we just speak to Devarajan. Does that sound fine?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. So we'll just go to Devarajan for that. And because this is an industry where, one of those industries, I should say, where the brunt of the impact has been seen. And even before the COVID impact, even before that, the challenge has been, this has been one of the industries where automation is very high. But can we do it better is what I'd like to understand from Devarajan. Devarajan, tell us about the journey for the industry as well. What could be the next multiplier with technology?
Yeah. Ashu, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me for this discussion. It's been very interesting discussion. I'm in the automobile sector in two-wheeler. And two-wheeler is mobility for life for all of us in India. And the change happening in terms of being independent during the COVID times, before that, is becoming very, very high. So the opportunity for being independent by the customer is becoming very high. That's the first point. Second, the customers are quite young in India. So we have a huge population of urban, rural, and the youngsters. So we have to be able to meet the demands, changes of the customer. That's the second very important thing. Third, I feel is being competitive, because a lot of people are there in the industry. How we can be competitive to meet the demands of the customer. So it is becoming from mass customization to probably n is equal to 1 based on the customer which is there, and how we are able to meet. Though India is among the top in the automobile manufacturing sector in the world, there are still challenges to see how we can be more competitive and meet the customer demand and customer requirements. That's been the situation. So how we are able to meet in the factory. So main thing for the factory in our case is transparency. How we are able to be transparent in where we are in terms of the order and where we are in terms of the supplier supplying to us and meeting the demands of the customer. So to be competitive, how we are able to use the resources effectively and efficiently. So most important is, do we know these things and can we do it better? See, in our industry, the cycle time is very, very low. We produce almost every 20 seconds a vehicle coming out of the factory. So it should be fast enough to get this data. So in our case, if I go back into many of our automobile industry, they have tied up and they're made into automation, improvement of automation because of the labor requirement. But the major thing is, in the last few years, we are trying to interconnect all these things and become more transparent. So hence, IT, IoT has become very, very important for us in terms of connectivity of machines, in terms of connectivity of the customer, and the connectivity of the supplier. So it's not going to be only in the factory. We believe the changes at the end-to-end, from the customer to the factory, to the supplier, to the sub-supplier. Because India is a huge country by itself, and the supplying to our requirement to the customers has to be in a large area. Similarly, the demand for our two-wheelers outside India has also increased. You are exporting something like 75 countries. And many of these countries, like the African countries, have started localization over there. So we have to set up the factory over there. How to establish a TVS way outside India? How to establish the quality? Because finally, how do we meet the customer demand? By ensuring the quality of the products. So like what I think it was very clearly said, what are we known for? So I think probably we should be known for smart, competitive manufacturing in the future. So we should be able to smart, at the same time be competitive, and probably automobile sector and two-wheeler sector can be the area where the volumes are there, where the customers are both in India and outside India, and we will be able to make a follow through in making it happen. So coming back into the technologies of it, in terms of the IoT and IoT inside the factory, DMS for the supplier end, and artificial intelligence to take the data from what type of customers can change. And are we able to meet the new product development earlier in lead times? Interface between the customer and the product. So it's been a continuous journey, and I feel it is a huge amount of change happening around. And in terms of COVID, into the people, how we are able to take the IoT into the people's end, how we are able to ensure the safety of the people. We have also extended to the community here now. We have TVS, we have extended the IT, IoT to the community. We have taken the villages, the roads which are trying to improve, the schools in which the students are studying, the self-help group. So I think in TVS, we have taken IT, IoT end to end, from the dealer to the customer, to the dealer, to the factory, to the supplier, to the community as a whole. So I think the opportunity for all of us to use this IT, IoT, IT is not only a sensor. We should be able to use the sensor to get data analysis of the data and get the quicker results. So we should look at the business opportunity, and we are looking at the business opportunity end to end. So I think it's a huge journey, and I think it's a really excellent in terms of being in this automobile industry, where the challenges of the customer is one end, delivering the competitive at the other end, and ensuring taking to the entire community in the third end. So That's the way I take Ashu. I think I'll take it forward as we go forward. Yeah.
Sure. And very interesting, the point that you brought the discussion to, because there's technology element playing in now because of the kind of newer electric vehicles that are coming. Yes. So we'll try and talk about that as well.
Okay.
But Vivek, I'd like to come to you. In all the conversations that have happened, the importance of technology is not being asked. So here, people want to understand how can technology be a multiplier for companies, for our manufacturing companies? What would you put it as?
Sure. I mean, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity, Ashu, and really here to meet the esteemed panel today. I don't know if you all noticed, I was busy taking notes while the panelists were talking about industry-specific issues, and as I was kind of building towards what are the best perspectives I can share, I'm able to draw a lot of common threads, right? And I'll talk to that in a minute. See, at Dell Technologies, we have a vision that we want to drive technology innovation that can bring about human progress. Now, given that large mandate that our founder has set for the company, kind of looking at what we've seen within the various industries in the context of businesses going through transformation, one theme that has clearly come out when we surveyed a lot of CXOs, CIOs, as well as CMOs across large and medium-sized organizations is that everybody agrees that digital transformation has always been on the agenda. For the last 8-9 years, we've been talking about it. But what has really happened is the last 18 months, there's been no other option, but most businesses have had to embrace a faster pace of transformation because of what the external environment brought upon businesses. Now, therefore, what does it mean, right? We believe that there are some key technology trends which will be kind of enablers to this transformation. And a lot of that, the esteemed panelists already called out, right? 2 or 3 things which are important from a manufacturing perspective. We strongly believe that, the legacy operational technology in the next decade has to accelerate quickly for manufacturing sector to become more digitally native. What that means are, I think, 3 important things. Number 1, the usage of artificial intelligence, machine learning, as well as, using the ecosystem of technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality, all of that has to come to the edge. A lot of the data that, we are seeing that's getting generated needs to be harnessed through the right adoption of technology so that you can unlock the power of data. The second important part, I think, especially in making sure you're able to add value across the manufacturing value chain from a technology standpoint is, are you able to generate insights real time by connecting different machines and the technology that is generating data? Because a lot of times you draw insights through not just one particular data point at a point in time, but you need to look at large amounts of data that are coming real time to make quick decisions, because the speed of decision making will be critical, right? So number 2. The third interesting point is, I think, what Mr. Devarajan referred to, right? One of the important things in manufacturing we are seeing across the world is the 2 extremes. One is mass production versus hyper customization. So what challenges does that bring? And in fact, a lot of B2C companies in the world are trying to get hyper personalization at scale. Take the example of Nike that we work with very closely, where once a customer decides I want a particular type of shoe, color, all of that, I should be able to quickly translate that to the shop floor. Now that might work in B2C, but today a lot of B2B customers are also demanding that, right? And how do you enable that kind of customization within manufacturing? So all these 3 trends and how companies enable that is what we are seeing. And from a technology standpoint, now if I have to translate that, 2 or 3 very important things. One is variability of demand that comes to IT teams, which means at what time of the year do you want to allocate critical resources, keeping your operational budgets in mind, and hence what are your operating models from a data center or your core infrastructure perspective. The second thing is, how do you create the intelligent edge, which is powerful enough so that you can make decisions at the point where the data is getting generated, so that you can make quick decisions on what products and services you're taking to market. So the intelligent edge is very important. How do you enable that? The third point, again, very important is while you make all of this happen, the devices, the choices that you make from a partnership perspective with OEMs is very critical, because in order to make the edge intelligent and build solutions, you need various players in the ecosystem to integrate their product development methodology. For example, we work with a lot of OEMs to have a longer roadmap of our regular products so that you are able to sustain the product development lifecycle. So the choice of partner who has the maturity and focus to build products which are customized to create this intelligent edge, i.e. I'm talking about devices which can be customized, the regular product that is customized to fit in, the requirements of an upstream OEM. All of this plays a very critical role. So, in summary, I think I completely agree with the fact that there are huge opportunities which I think these technology trends bring to the sector, but it is all about the right choice of technology and, your partnerships, which I think will make the difference for companies.
Okay, so you've heard all the experts talk. Now let's hear what the people here, people who are watching here, what they have to say. So it's very important because we need to get a pulse of what they're feeling. So it's time for a little poll. This is just indicative, and this just gives you a dipstick. So here's the poll question before you. What is the biggest bottleneck in technology aiding India's manufacturing leap? Now, you, the viewer, has to answer it, and you choose one of the four, and we'll wait for you to answer that. Importantly, let me just point out that the panelists cannot answer that question, nor can I. So it's about you, and it gives the panelists a sense of what you are thinking. So please go ahead and mark your answers, and we'll come back to the results of that poll in just a little while as we move ahead with our discussion. So Rajeev, let's move on. And while we wait for those answers to come, what should be the first steps that a company needs to take when they are looking to go ahead and get into the smart manufacturing? Okay, while I speak, the answers are here. All the above. So look at that. That's what the people are saying. And there seem to be a decent number of votes from among the people who are watching. So all the above, that's more than 50% of the people saying that. So Rajeev, it gives you a dipstick into what the people are thinking. So keeping that in mind, what should be the first steps companies need to do right at the top leadership, at the operational level, to make sure that journey is in the right direction?
Yeah, so Ashu, I think you touched upon a very important point, and I find that a lot of times organizations miss the larger picture at times, and they try to jump into solutioning. And I think that the first important thing that the organizations need to find is what is the problem that you're trying to solve? What is the larger purpose that you want to achieve through any kind of a smart manufacturing or digitization as an initiative that you're driving? And let me give an example here. Now we are working with a large oil and gas major, and they are driving a very large, not smart manufacturing necessarily, but it's a digital operations improvement initiative, which is cutting across beyond manufacturing. It goes into logistics, it goes into customer and everything. Now they thought through, okay, we need to transform, fine, but why do we need to transform? I mean, what is the need has to come from outside. The need is not, I need to be something. What is my customer asking, and so on and so forth. And this is something that all of us can very easily relate, because all of us go to petrol pumps, all of us fill fuel in our cars and in our two-wheelers. Now, what is it that is the most troublesome for the customer here? And amongst all the words, they picked up one word, and they said it's trust and transparency. Okay. Now that became the rallying point for them. And I'll explain why did they pick up as that word. Because they said that when the customer goes to the petrol pump to fill petrol, he doesn't believe that what is the, sorry, Ashu?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was saying he doesn't believe that the meter is really set 0. So he wants to see, is the meter really 0 there? Then as you fill, he wants to keep a watch on that is the right amount of quantity being filled. And at times he even doesn't trust the quality of the fuel. Now, look at it at the entire value chain. So the same mistrust is there even between, say, the logistics person and the retail outlet, because they are not very sure whether the right quantity has come. They have a challenge in terms of between, say, the refinery unit and the logistics fellow, because it is cutting across. Now, what organizations need to do is that whenever they're embarking on a large transformation journey, which is to say, can I make manufacturing smart? Okay, can I ensure that I have a common rallying point as to why am I trying to do this? What is the larger objective? Because that common rallying point helps in terms of putting all people together and then say, okay, what do I want to do? It could be even as simple as cost. Okay, I just want to do because I want to reduce my cost of manufacturing. It could be as simple as that, or it could be as simple as I just want to ensure that my downtime is minimum, my unplanned downtime is minimum. But have a very simple common rallying objective of why do you want to do something. And then don't try and do smart manufacturing across your entire factory. You pick up what are the places where if you do some interventions that will have the maximum impact. So try and prioritize your problems. Try and prioritize the areas that you want to try and want to achieve. So try and first start with the vision, try and start with the rallying point, then come down to say, okay, what are the problems which filter that, pick out of them, and then say, can I implement something? But at the same time, try and implement something which is a solution which you can try very fast. The reason why you should do something that can be tried very fast is because either you get to know that it is working and hence you can scale it up to big size, or at least if it doesn't work, you know you fail fast. It's not that you're dragging it over a long period of time and you don't know what is going to happen with that particular solution. For example, a company is trying to, say, pull out data from the machines and put them onto a common platform. Try and implement that solution at least at few critical machines and try it out very, very fast so that you know that, okay, if it is working, I'll replicate to all the critical machines. If it is not working, let me move on and look for another solution to extract the same data. But I think those are the important points, Ashu, which are critical when organizations are looking at, can they follow from top to down? Otherwise, what can happen is that you have, of course, manufacturing organizations are large. There are thousands of people. Every team, in their own enthusiasm, in their own excitement, can start going and doing some things, and it can all get in like in chemistry. They say that when the atoms are not aligned to each other, they're all looking in different directions. Okay, you want to do that annealing and ensure that everything is aligned in a single direction. So can you do that? Can you get everyone to one direction and align and say, okay, our objective is cost, our objective is trust, our objective is transparency. So that is what is more important.
Okay. May I just comment to what Vivek said, if you are okay with that? So Vivek, I mean, you made a good point that, you know, all digital initiatives have to be objective oriented. And I think today, at least I'm speaking from L&D perspective, and I know few other companies, you know, with my friends and peers. I think one is objective. So people are definitely doing digital initiatives with an objective in mind. But I think what I'm also seeing is the change management and the empathy towards the end users. I think that are the two levers which has to be also looked into so that your digital solutions or digital interventions are effectively utilized to deliver the kind of value that you need. Right? So, I mean, we are working heavily on those areas as well, because at L&T, we are talking about scale, right? And our CEO makes it very clear to us that for us, digital is not a fashion statement at all. It's the means of earning, living, and breathing the whole business growth. So we don't do digital just for the, you know, to look good. We really employ it and we go with scale. You know, for example, we have got 12,000 machines and assets connected as on today, and they are beaming in real-time information as and when we want. You know, just as an example. So just wanted to put in my thoughts that, you know, probably change management and empathy to the end users as to how they are really using it. Absolutely. And using it effectively. I just wanted to add up to
very important point. Very important point. I probably wanted to get that to the end because these may not be the key business issues for a lot of people, but without the people, without that empathy, without the change management in place, probably businesses can miss out on some important levers that they already have. But let me go to Prosenjit now and try and understand from him a broad picture still, because there are quite a few issues to be discussed, Prosenjit. So the entire premise of manufacturing is the importance of having a process, a predictive behavior for the machines that are being employed. In these uncertain times, how are manufacturing companies managing? And why I thought you would be a good person to answer, because of the importance on power sector as well. If the power sector is not doing very well, how can you expect the downstream companies to do any better? So Prosenjit.
Yeah, thanks, Ashu. And I hope my voice is clear now. And
absolutely.
All right. So I think, first of all, I would like to say that I definitely agree with the other viewpoints. There are certain things that has to be driven from the top. And again, as I will also agree that things can't be a fashion statement anymore. In fact, the basic premise also of the digital transformation activities that we have started taking in Thermax is completely oriented to the objectives of the end customer and the business growth. Because until and unless these objectives are very focused in nature, we can at best end up with automations in bits and parts. And one thing that the digital transformation is teaching us is that we cannot achieve transformation until and unless we are bringing multiple viewpoints, multiple departments, multiple areas together. And I think through this, I will want to bring, the segue into the discussion that the question that you asked, that how are we looking at the interconnection between the different industries, and how are we looking at the interconnection of the digital transformation piece going ahead. So one thing is very clear, Ashu, is yes, of course, the power transmission or the energy area is one of the leading factors that is going to make or break when we talk about the manufacturing area. Because one thing is extremely clear, that when we are talking about digital transformations, we are talking about a complete change and a data-oriented business. The moment we talk about a data-oriented business, it cannot do without energy. Now, whether it is IoT, whether it is any other industrial applications, whether it is the using of applications on cloud, etc., everywhere we have to have the energy in place. Energy to carry out and do the transactions. Energy to do humongous amounts of analysis of data, come out with reasonable analysis and reasonable recommendations. Also, to help us in gauging the direction in which we want to go ahead. I think that is on one side. I want to just bring in a side aspect also on this. Since we are very deeply engaged in this entire energy business and the energy transformation, another area which is equally important for us to, let us say, become big, become important in the manufacturing segment, become a known player. And when I'm saying we, I'm talking about India. It is extremely important that we also imbibe the new energy, the new age energy paradigms, because the entire world is shifting from coal-based economies into new age energy economies. And that is going to be also the shift that is going to be extremely important for us to define whether we are going to become or remain big players in the economy going forward or not. Because if we lose this game, then we are going to fall behind again, and we will not be able to make good the gap that has already created, which basically historically we have not been able to move there, but it is giving us a chance with the entire technology at our disposal, the entire energy management and the analysis at our disposal, people at our disposal. the kinds of automations that we have achieved at scale at our disposal, I think one of the best times for us to really take that big leap and move forward into the industrial or industry 4.0 or the manufacturing efficacies area for the entire in the entire global scenario.
Okay. So Ajay, then the question to you, and let me give it in a little bit of a context that India has been witness, and all of us have, each one of us have been beneficiaries. Let's take the example of 2G mobile telephony, which India adopted in the 1990s. If you remember that, I remember the numbers because I covered telecom. I'm not sure everyone would. We had about 18 million phones, 18 million phones in the country in 1997. And 25 years later, we're talking for a billion phones. And about 10 years ago, in 2008-9 or so, we were adding between 15 and 18 million phones a month, wireless phones, wireless subscribers to be precise. How can India build on that kind of an experience to, do a similar thing for manufacturing as well? Is that possible?
No, I think your poll that you actually is a great question, right? I mean, just to kind of put things in context, if I have to draw an analogy, the amount of data that was created world over till today will be equal to the amount of data that will be created in the next 5 years. So this is never linear. So this is just hyperlinear, exponential in terms of, if you want to give those analogies. But yes, I think manufacturing is both, brick and mortar and where rubber meets the road, as you actually said in your opening comments. But when you actually put your poll out, I think there were 3 things that you asked for. One was scale, one was funding, and one was then I think there was like this whole demand, right? Basically, I think these are the 3 things that will be critical for any of that to actually happen, to make India like a manufacturing hub, to make India like the new China as being like the dream that you can become the factory for the world kind of a thing, right? I think India has 2 great things. One is India has got phenomenal talent. And then India has got great local demand. I think there are 2 things that are going in its favor to actually build those infrastructure and build those industries out here. And then India definitely has the talent and the technical know-how to build products that are good for the world. So definitely it's possible, but it is a question of placing those big bets that we are looking at, identifying the big problems that we are actually want to go after. So I think somebody just said that, hey, we don't want to do transformation just for the sake of doing, but we want to understand what is that goal in mind. I think that was a great statement, right? So understand what are those 2 or 3 big bets that India wants to place, have the right policies that actually back that, and make use of where we are good at, right? We are great in technology, so make sure that we are having those. Like, for example, how can academic institutions help this, right? Like Indian Institute of Science, the IITs, they are doing a lot of research, right? So how can we kind of leverage that and fund those research in those areas that can actually feed into industry later on, right? So there is this art park that Ajeya has created for the growth of artificial intelligence. Like, how can we kind of invest there and then fund some research that actually can help the industry? Like, how can we collaborate? Like I talk to the IIT professors all the time to kind of see where we can actually fund and get some great knowledge out of that can help industries, right? So it needs to be really a multifaceted outlook, and we'll need to unshackle some of the industries to actually do some of those things with the idea of actually going and achieving something major. So first, understand the why, and then I think that's pretty much clear in the way that you very well articulated. Then the what, and in terms of where you want to get to, and then the how. And I think for the how, I can see all the hands coming up right now, and then it's exactly, all of us have ideas, so we need to actually put that together and push it forward, actually.
Somebody needs to put that together for sure. So Rajeev, if you can make a quick point, please.
Yeah. You're on mute, Rajeev. You forgot to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. So Ashu, I was saying I like the analogy, and I'm going to just counter it with another analogy. I mean, not counter, sorry, complement it with another analogy, and then come to the point. So Ashu, just like you spoke about the telecom sector, I lead automotive sector for Deloitte. And in the auto sector, similarly, numbers, if you look at China on passenger vehicles, just about 2 decades, not even 25, 2 decades back, was lesser than India. So China used to manufacture lesser number of vehicles, passenger cars, than what India used to do about 2 decades back. And come forward now in 2021, they are doing about close to almost 10 times the size that India is. So what did China do so differently that manufacturing for them zoomed to that size, which is 1/3 of India to 10 times of India, right? I think one of the things that is key is how did the entire industrial parks come up? How did the entire ecosystem build? How did the entire infrastructure build? For example, one of the things was plug and play. Can I have manufacturings which are plug and play? Just like I have plug and play instruments. I take my instrument and I plug my phone anywhere to charge it. Now, is it possible for me to create hubs where all the utilities that are required in manufacturing, be it steam, be it compressed air, be it whatever utilities I require, everything is being produced at a mega scale. All I need to do is take my machines and put them into that facility. I don't have to worry about utilities. And the cost of utility per unit in such cases is also very, very, competitive because it is being produced at a massive scale. I think like that, we need to think of a lot of things that can really, really help in massive growth in manufacturing. We keep talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, we keep talking about Make in India. There are a lot of programs that have come in and so on and so forth. But the scale at which we need to grow is really massive. I think that we need to have a lot more such ideas which can see, and it is not that other countries have not done. I'm just taking an example which was just in 2 decades, a neighboring country which zoomed 10 times India's size in automotive. Why can't we do it? Probably we can do that in EVs now. Can we grow big time?
Absolutely.
But that is what we need to think.
Absolutely. So if the last decade was about talking, this decade has to be about action, I'd imagine.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the automobile sector, and Rajeev, you almost took the words out of my mouth because I was wanting to ask Devarajan about it. Devarajan, if I can ask about the experience for the automobile sector. Just like I referred to about the telecom and Rajeev talked about the automobile sector, what will catapult that automobile sector into a global powerhouse? We're already there, in the top of the mind. China may have done far number of vehicles, I guess, some 20 million a year that they sell or something like that. In that range, what could change India's scale?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very interesting point at the discussion. See, in terms of the growth, we are talking about $5 trillion in the next 3-4 years in India itself. So the opportunity for growth is there both in India and outside India. So what is that opportunity in terms of the support to the people? From the customer angle, there is a lot of demand to be independent, as what I mentioned earlier. So the inbuilt demand on mobility is definitely going to be increasing in nature. Mobility not only for their own purpose, it may be for business, for their own living. People are having their own self-independent system coming in. They have become self-owned business. Software industry going into picture, the e-business coming into area. So the opportunity is already there now. So we have to catch on this opportunity of making the demand met. So let's go into the other side of it in terms of what type of technology can change. See, today, the country also is changing a lot. Every area, you have metro, you have so many changes happening. So we are trying to, you talk about mobility, you talk about mobile phones. We are trying to put those things into the vehicle itself. Whether it is a moped or a motorcycle or a scooter, can you ensure that the customer is supported to where to go, when to go, what are the benefits you can get, when to get the fuel efficiency. So we are able to bring the GPS picture, telephone talk, because everyone cannot, they should ride and talk also in a similar way. That's the way India is. So how to cater to those demands of the customer itself. So I find the things happening in your personal area is coming into vehicle now. either it's car or anything. What is happening in technology in car is demanded in a moped, which is used as an LCV. So it is not only in the cities, including the rural areas, including the semi-urban area, and between the cities too. It is all the opportunity changing. Similarly, I also found one more analogy. I don't know how to share this. There are a lot of things happening outside India also. For example, South Africa, in terms of African countries, there is no roads. The vehicle built in India is doing very well outside India also. That means to say we are able to do well in terms of engineering and increase the volume outside India for exports. So what can change? What can change? Definitely today, everyone is talking about the global warming, ensure that the requirement of pollution reduction is definitely there. I think there's a lot of push from the government also. I think it's going to be the opportunity for all of us to take into that road in terms of how to enable. But again, it has to meet the customer demand. The range should be good. We can't say will make electrical vehicles which can't move from one place to another place. So how to improve the technology into that area and manufacturing of that. And that is the area I feel the opportunity arises and can be a tipping point. Tipping point in terms of now I see people are saying you can bring electronics into India. That is an opportunity where you should take and increase the speed. Next 2 years can be changed, making the elements of the EV, not only making the EV, not only making the battery. We have to go into the root. I think what L&T did is fantastic in terms of going to the root area, ensure that they know where to get the steel from, where to get the things, and in India itself. So I think instead of just talking about EV in the vehicle, we should go into the elements of which makes the EV, which gives the volume, and put the cost down. And that will be the major area in which they will take up. That is the tipping point. So I think it's going to be an opportunity to meet the customer, the type of customer, range in which the customer uses, and the technology which helps him to get the benefit. I think that's a combination. I think we are very good in that. We should simulate all these things, use all the technical know-how of it. Second point is we have to ensure that it goes to the students, it goes to the institution. That's the area in which we get the input from. Engineers coming from the institutions. How industry can work along with the institutions to become 3I interface, government interface. And that's the area I think we should take holistically and ensure there is no checks in it. We need to do it faster. I think we are all in the game for it.
Okay, so just a yes and a no kind of an answer, because, I'm just reminded of someone from Coca-Cola telling me we sell in every country in the world barring 2. And those 2 were North Korea and Cuba. Then this was a couple of years ago. So Cuba, the situation's changed. Can we say the same for India's two-wheeler industries soon? Yes or a no?
I think it should be yes.
Okay, that's a very positive note to hear.
Yeah. I tell you why. Only one reason for it, because the type of vehicle we are trying to make today, it's for India. And I told you, if you're designed to make in India, it runs very well, including South Africa, when there is no roads at all. Or in India, African countries, no road. It's possible to do. Second, the type of people coming in, the customer today are very, very young. The type of demand, the type of changes people want, the type of elements which is there in the personal mobility into the vehicle, which making our things demand and change the type of technology we have. 3, in terms of the cost competitiveness, definitely in terms of reliability, we are going steps forward in that area. That's my personal opinion. Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully that can translate into the EVs as well, because that's an emerging market. Okay, Satish, Patil, how has technology helped in creating a safer environment? And then I'll, of course, later come and also talk a little bit about sustainability issues, because that also is something important.
Sure. Actually, a very good question, actually. I mean, again, if I put L&T into perspective, we are into construction projects, right? And construction projects is all about workmen. And we need thousands and thousands of workmen to do a single project. And these workmen come and go, right? They're not employees. But when it comes to health and safety, we have to own it. So we live and die for that, because anything that happens to them, it's not good for the company or for the government. So to ensure that their health and safety is intact, and we have early warnings if any unsafe condition happens. So we have used a lot of these technologies which are mainly AI based. One of the technologies, we have cameras mounted at all the project sites, which is giving me images 24/7. So we have put image analytics where if any unsafe activity is seen, it gives a real-time warning to the supervisors that something is not good here. Please take corrective action. So we do that. So it's a real-time 24/7. Second thing is personal protective equipment, right? PPE, right? I mean, so there's a tendency, right? I mean, to remove the helmet and work if there's a heated environment or whatsoever, right? So a tendency to take out the safety shoes. So again, we do a lot of image analytics where if somebody takes off the helmet or the safety jackets or safety shoes, this gives a real-time warning and an alert saying that somebody has done that. So there are ways and means in which we do this. Another thing that we are also doing is tracking these workmen in the hazardous areas, right? I mean, if I'm doing a pressure testing at a high pressure testing, we are supposed to not have workmen around it while testing, right? So, but there's a tendency that the workman doesn't know and he might come nearer to that testing place. So again, we have these RFID sensors and all that, where we try to, the testing will not start if it detects a workman around that periphery. So we geofence that zone and automatically we have sensors where the testing itself will not start if some workman intrusion is there. So we are using a lot of analytics to ensure that the health and safety of a worker is always met. And we give a lot of importance to it.
Okay, Vivek, I'd like to come to you next. And just want to understand from you, while we're all talking technology-led smart manufacturing, and that's been raised by several panelists here, one of the cornerstone has to be around sustainability. While you can multiply using the technology options available, what are some of the elements of sustainability that can be ensured using technology for all the manufacturing operations?
Just to clarify, when you mean sustainability, are you talking about being sustainable from an environment perspective, or how do you sustain scale?
So sustainability has to be about the operations and not just, so when a manager, somebody is at the plant level or managing maybe 20 plants or 10 plants, he has to be able to monitor that, centralize the problem, distribute these. That's the essence.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So I think, a lot of what I think technology trends that we spoke about offer is, I think, a platform and the ability to, I think, sustain and in a safe manner manage operations or ensure there's security and safety around personnel, health, etc. Right? I can give you a couple of examples at Dell, right? What we are doing, which is more outside India, which I'm sure will soon come to India, in the area of, let's say, transportation, for example, which is, I think, a horizontal which cuts across manufacturing and most other industries at scale. I think, like you said, one of the ways we've scaled very effectively a solution is brought together a solution-led approach where we've tied with, industry majors. In some markets, we work with Honeywell. Elsewhere, we have other OEM operational technology providers to build solutions that leverage the best of what all of us can bring to the table. One example I wanted to talk about is today we have technology in the US where, a high-speed transportation network taking hazardous material, right, without naming the client. We have technology planted at various points when the network is in motion to capture through lidar sensors a very intelligent edge, which is powered by artificial intelligence, and captures this data, takes it back to the cloud, and in a real-time basis, you're able to detect hotspots and alert, right? So why I'm bringing this is, I think, in addition to having intelligence and the ability to leverage AI, at points, I think for it to sustain, you need something which is a solution which can scale across a larger base. And the moment you have scalability, which can take into effect a little bit of variability or customization for different markets, I think you have a solution that's at scale. And that's what Dell is working towards. How do you learn to solve problems at scale so that then you can, start taking that as a best practice and doing it across geographies? I think we found solutions in certain horizontals like transportation, for example. Upstream oil gas is another example where we have solutions today where specifically in site exploration and all of that, today we have robust solutions which cut across the device, the data center, the software, all of that, which can scale. And when I say scale, the other thing is from a solution provider perspective, if somebody's buying my solution, he also wants a consumption model which can, I think, give them the variability so that they can convert a CapEx investment to OpEx. So we are working very aggressively towards bringing, I think, that level of scalability to take in the level of variability in demand that we are seeing from technology.
Okay, get your point. And since we're talking about what technology can do, well, are Indian companies ready to invest more? So again, this is going to be a poll. This is a dipstick, just to put it in context. And the poll is very simple. Is your company likely to expand manufacturing in India in the next few years? You make only one choice. This is even simpler than the last one. And we want you, everyone watching here, if they could put in their answers, and that'll also be an indicator for our panelists who can't answer these questions, nor can I, for what is the mood among the people who are watching this and are with us today on the platforms that we are going to learn. So the answers will come up in just a bit as you're watching. And while we wait for the answers, we'll also, oops, there comes the answer. And yes, nearly half the percent saying their company. Now, the people who are with us, they are more from various kinds of companies. So this is a mood. So this is a little bit of a mood of their own company. And again, I'll insist, this is indicative only. This cannot be very pointing in a particular direction kind of thing. So Rajeev, just before I come, let me tell the audience that there are questions also we'd like to take in case you'd like to put your questions to the experts. Please do put it in the Q&A tab and we'll try and take them and try and make it about trends, about specific. So there'll be no specific questions about specific companies that will be answered. So try and make it about a trend or a specific query about the industry. So we'll try and take some of those questions. Rajeev, I was coming to you. So what would you say are some of those success stories, if you could name broad sectors, and what has worked in terms of the early steps for tomorrow's manufacturing, if I may use that?
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Ashu, for bringing that up. I think that quite a few players, and it's not that just the large players, which are like mega groups in India who have seen initial success. I think, yeah, I would rather say that a lot of companies in the mid-size, okay, which are in the 500 to 3,000 crores, 500 to 4,000 crores, have seen some enormous amount of work happening. And they have been pretty frugal at the same time in terms of what they're doing with manufacturing. And at times I'm amazed to see the kind of solutions that they have themselves co-created with a lot of startups. I think to bucket them, some of the organizations have done something which is so simple, but it has given them amazing results. For example, organizations have just ensured that they pulled data from all their machines which are there, especially the critical machines, and just put it onto a common platform and applied some logic, some sense, some analytics to it to start predicting failures. Okay, start to predict as to when is my press going to fail, when is my probably some CNC lathe going to fail, and so on and so forth. And by doing so, they have started to ensure that the unplanned downtimes which were there in the shop floor is going down. Now, a very simple thing, just pulling data, putting it into a database, making some sense by doing some analytics, building insights, but you're able to cut down your downtime. Now, if this is on one end, okay, we have examples which are on the other end. For example, there is another player which is there into say tire manufacturing. They manufacture tires. and they buy commodities. One of the commodities they buy is rubber. Now, predicting rubber prices is very important for them because at the end of the day, it's a margin which is very, very thin. Okay. At the end of the day, if you buy rubber at the right prices, you know you will be able to make some bottom line because the OEM is not going to change its price and the rubber prices are like Sensex, which goes up and down. The decision you have to make is, do I do spot buying or do I do long-term contracts? Of course, no one wants to hedge and say, I will do only spot everything or I will do only contract everything, but you need to take a constant call. Now, what are they doing? We all, for example, are surrounded by AI. And they said, okay, let's apply AI to this particular problem that we have. They went and asked all their procurement fellows, what do you do? They said, we have some 170 indexes that we track globally. Okay, yes, 170 or some such large number, okay, indexes that we track globally. What is happening in Indonesia? What is happening in Thailand? What is happening in Latin? What is happening to demand? Multiple kind of indexes. And what do? You put them all in an Excel file, then we are trying to find some logic in it. And then we come to say, okay, is the price going to go up or go down in the next 2 weeks, next 4 weeks, next 6 weeks? And we start predicting. Now, the company said very simple thing. They said, okay, can I put some logic to this? Can I build artificial intelligence around what the 70 people are doing? And can I make a program out of it? So the techie guys sat, everyone came together. They created an artificial intelligence program. But the story didn't end there. They said, okay, now this artificial intelligence program is predicting a price, and let's run both the things simultaneously for the next few months. Let's see what is the program giving an output, and let's see what the human intelligence is giving an output. Of course, in the beginning, human intelligence was more better. But they said, can I put now machine learning over this AI? And can this program self-learn and ensure that its predictability go up? So they put a machine learning over and above the AI. And now what that tool is giving them, or that asset is giving them, is a far, far higher predictability than what the human team was giving. At the end of the day, we are not saying that this is going to replace humans. What we are saying is that human will move to next problems because they will work on more qualitative and bigger challenges. But their entire bandwidth on managing so much amount of data, their entire bandwidth of kind of doing all this analysis has been addressed by something like an AI ML. An enormous number of examples, Ashu, across the manufacturing sector where people have used augmented reality. So you start looking at component and augmented reality helps you say whether this is the right product or this is the wrong product. For example, in automotive, Devarajan is here and he would know that when you do assembly, the nuts and bolts look so very similar. You never know when you pick a wrong bolt and put it into the vehicle and it doesn't fit. And it can be a huge problem later on. And that is where sometimes artificial intelligence or augmented reality can come in handy and say that, okay, whatever you put, is it the right one? So enormous number of examples, Ashu, across the sector. But what is more important, I think, is that the ability of people to start thinking and start saying, okay, can I? So they need to have knowledge firstly of some of these technologies, and then they need to have the ability to bring the problem and solve it. So the ability to transfer or convert a problem, which is say a manufacturing problem, into a digital problem, then convert the digital problem into a digital solution, and then digital solution into a manufacturing solution. So that is the cycle that someone needs to do. And someone who understands both the sides, who understands manufacturing very well, and who understands technology to a certain extent. I think those are the people, the bridges, who are able to solve a lot of these problems in the manufacturing shop floor.
Okay, so there are some questions coming in, and I'd like to go to Ajeya for this. Ajeya, the question is from Sanjay Kumar, and he says, at this point of restructuring phase, which he's talking about, post-pandemic, what are the key initiatives to focus on so that, I'm presuming that he is talking of a manufacturing operation, so that they can turn around, so that they can work more efficiently or something like that. With your experience, can you paint a picture?
No, I don't know what you mean exactly by restructuring, but I'm thinking that you're talking about rebuilding is probably what you're kind of talking
Yeah,
about.
so that's what he's written. So I'm just reading off.
I understand. No, I think what he means is, while we come out of this pandemic and then while we are rebuilding, I think there are a couple of phenomena that you will actually see right now is that you'll see a lot of demand pick up, and then people will start to kind of come and return to work, and then workplaces will kind of have to accept people, and then how do you like adapt to the new normal and stuff like that, right? So a lot of things will start to kind of happen. You will already see some of those uptrends actually taking place and things like that. So if your question is, how do we gear up for manufacturing? Is that what the deal is?
I think more he's trying to more say how can it help rebuild, given the situation that existed.
Yeah, I think okay, understand. I think a couple of things is some of the things have changed, right? I think people have different habits as what they had before. So there is a new normal. So first is to accept and understand that. I actually gave an example of e-commerce. So just take a cue from that, right? I think people are kind of changed their buying habits and stuff like that. So there is a different way to do it. So one easy way to do it is to look at some of these trends, then look at what is the new normal wanting you to do, right? So for example, there is abundance of data available everywhere, right? So make use of some of that to kind of have some of those trends, and then you will have to address some of that basically, right? So I think there's an enormous focus on healthcare as we actually go forward, right? Like healthcare in the sense, what affected us the most during the pandemic, right? There were no beds, right? Even if there were beds, there were no ICUs, right? So there was like healthcare was like a crying need of the country, right? Now everybody has forgotten about it, but that is the biggest need. So as an entrepreneur, what can you do to bridge that gap, right? How can you bring in some kind of technologies that can actually elevate a bed into an ICU bed without really having to charge or something like that? What kind of digital adoption can be done there? So there are huge opportunity spaces that have come as a result of this pandemic that has opened our eyes. So what is healthcare? Then remote working, right? I don't think 100% of employees will return to workplaces ever, right? I don't think that's going to happen except in places where there is extreme need. So how do we kind of ensure the same level of productivity and involvement and things of that sort? So these are like places that nobody thought would actually open up, but they have opened up. And then education is another space where there's a lot going on, right? So yeah, so you'll have to think about post-pandemic is a new learning for all of us. We are all grappling with it and learning and trying to improve ourselves. And entrepreneurs, great opportunity spaces actually.
Okay, Prosenjit, since Thermax works across industries and so many of them, what are the opportunities you're seeing where there is a crying need for technology intervention and it could scale up operations, it could make the operations more efficient, more so in the reality that we live in today?
I think across the industries, of course, the healthcare segment is definitely going completely digital. But apart from the healthcare that we are all talking about, the chemicals industry is growing increasingly into the automation space. I mean, the amount of chemical dosing that is required, what the amount of permutations, combinations that needs to be done. And when I'm talking chemicals across the entire suite. It can be construction chemicals, it can be industrial chemicals, it can be even personal healthcare, personal hygiene chemicals. I think everything is going completely into the automation area. Food and beverages, again, an area where immense amounts of modernization, immense amounts of automation can be seen. I mean, these are definitely the leading areas that we can see where there is a huge requirement of automation, a huge requirement of digitalization that is coming in. But having said that, what I can tell you, Ashu, is if I look at what the situation was about 5 to 10 years ago and what it is now, I can hardly leave aside any single industry which is not looking at further automation, further digitalization, and further scope of improving their outcomes. In fact, once a little a deviation from there, Ashu, we can see the entire industry changing. Earlier, most of the industries, they were looking at managing all their utilities themselves. That means we will sell them the boilers, the chillers, the air pollution control units, and there would be teams inside their companies who would be managing it. But today we can see increasingly again across industries, people are asking for subscription-based solutions. It was completely, I mean, it was not even existing. This kind of a solution was not even existing 5 years ago. And we are looking at a subscription-based economy from the utility and the energy areas where people are saying that, can you provide me steam per unit steam? Give me a quotation. Can you give me, or can you ensure clean water, clean air? So what is becoming more and more evident is that the industries are no longer wanting to invest their energies into areas which is not core. At the same time, there are government implications which are saying that the output coming out of any manufacturing industry has to adhere to certain norms of pollution. So this becomes kind of a sweet spot. The sweet spot in giving energy and managing the pollution. And this is getting outsourced. And the entire outsourced mechanism is all about automation. It is all about digitalization, and it is all about using artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotic processes to ensure that the input and the output are well managed, and the output is actually delivering the not only the outcomes and the efficiencies, but it is also adhering to the pollution norms. So I think this is a huge sea change which is happening across the industries.
Okay, a B2B subscription that I don't know how many of, at least I had not heard that. Satish, Patil, this last question to you. Are we just scratching the surface of some of these opportunities driven by tech, or would you say that? And maybe 3 years later, we could be talking at a completely different scale than what we are now.
Absolutely, Ashutosh. I mean, see, when you say digital or technology, every 6 months there are newer technologies that come into play, which are much smarter, efficient, and result-oriented, right? So definitely we are scratching the surface as of now. And I see a huge potential coming in near future, like say 2 or 3 years, when data becomes more cheaper. Then you've got this technical devices that becomes more commoditized and cheaper. I will see more and more usage of these things in trying to up our productivity or efficiency and the cost effectiveness of the production. And I'm also seeing a lot of big trends happening in the office productivity. Right? I mean, so far the focus was on how do I improvise the manufacturing shop floor. But now I'm seeing a lot of shift is happening to the office productivity because there's a lot of potential there to turn around the decision making much faster. So yes, I mean, yes to your question that there's a lot of opportunity and we are still scratching the surface as I understand.
Okay, it was used in a different context in a movie, but it just reminds me of those words, picture abhi baki hai. I guess so that's what it is. Vivek, we've almost run out of time. Can I request you to sum up the discussion and also for a vote of thanks, please?
Sure. Sorry, Vivek, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, fantastic. I think it was a very interesting discussion, right? I kept taking notes. What I really took away is the optimism that there is a huge opportunity ahead of us if we leverage the power of technology. I took away the fact that unless organizations are willing to change and change at pace, you will be left behind. So it's an opportunity and a challenge. To me, I think it's very clear that in India we have a tremendous pool of talent. We have the expertise to scale technology at large, And more than anything, I think we have a pro-change government, which is bringing good policy changes. I think the ecosystem is great. I think it's only up to us to kind of bring all of this together within each of these industries to, bring about that step change. And I think the future definitely looks bright.
Okay. On that bright note, it's time to sign off. I'd like to thank everyone. Vivekanand and Manjeri, to you. Rajeev Singh at Deloitte, Prosenjit Gupta at Thermax, S. Devarajan at TVS Motor Company, Ajeya Motaganahalli at Honeywell Technology, and Satish Patil at Larsen Toubro. Thank you so much for that engaging discussion, and of course, the optimism that you all sounded while we were talking about the future. We hope together we can build and, well, to use a cliche term in the context today, manufacture a brighter future for all of us together. Thank you indeed for joining us. Wonderful having you on the Economic Times.
Thank you.
Thank you.